My name is Charles Oliveira, and I'm a fighter from the favelas of Brazil. But when I was 7, the doctor pointed at my x-ray and handed my life 2 death sentences. He said I had severe rheumatic fever and a heart murmur. I'd spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair. From page 1, my story was written in despair. I was born in the poorest slums of Sao Paulo. The air there held no romance of samba, only the harsh sting of survival. My earliest memory is following my illiterate mother through garbage piles, searching for scrap cardboard, then dragging a cart stacked higher than I was, walking for 2 hours just to trade it for a few worthless coins. Poverty turned my childhood into stone, numb and hard. But I never imagined the doctor's diagnosis would hit like a sledgehammer, cracking that stone open and exposing the raw, bloodied cry inside. That day, my mother's tears ran dry. She looked at me with a determination I'd never seen before. She couldn't read, but she refused to surrender to fate. Then my father gave me a small, rough stone. He told me, "This is the kind of stone the shepherd David used to defeat the giant Goliath. If it was enough for God, then it's enough for you." From that moment on, that stone, a symbol of the weak overcoming the strong, became the spine of my spirit. But faith alone wasn't enough. That's when our neighbor, Uncle Paulo, appeared. He saw the unyielding soul beneath my frail body. He paid my first tuition at the jiu-jitsu gym out of his own pocket. He even gave me a GI covered in patch upon patch. He told me to stay off the streets and go sweat on the mats. From then on, I wasn't just training, I was fighting for my life. I escaped the wheelchair that doctor said would be my destiny. In just 2 months, I won my first medal in competition. But I never expected that just as I thought life was finally turning my way, the man who had lit a lamp for me was cut down in a violent street clash, lying in a pool of blood. He never got back up. At 21, I stepped into the UFC octagon armed with my jiu-jitsu. The world marveled that this Brazilian kid's ground game was pure art. But when truly elite violence tore through the illusion of art, when I was crushed under the pressure of killers like Miller and Cowboy Cerrone, tapping out again and again, all the praise turned into cutting ridicule. They branded me soft, fragile, a perennial supporting character. Worse still, the birth of my daughter in 2017 had once given me hope. I swore I would build a safe harbor for her, but a year later my wife, no longer able to see any hope, left with our daughter. That home became terrifyingly silent. That dead silence was more suffocating than any punch an opponent could throw. I didn't break, so I set my alarm back to 4 a.m. In an empty gym, I threw punches like a madman, sweat soaked the floor, and my coach asked if I was tired. I said going home was harder, because it was too quiet there. In that endless darkness and loneliness, I finally understood. Before David could defeat the giant, he first had to endure long solitude in the wilderness. When I rose from the ruins, I felt like a different man. In 2021, facing Iron Mike Chandler's storm of heavy punches, I was rocked badly in the first round. Everyone thought that same old soft quitter was about to fold again. But this time, deep in my soul, that stone held my spine firm. Just 19 seconds into the second round, I finished him with a straight right hand. I crushed all that mockery with my own hands, and strapped the gold around my waist. But how could fate let me off so easily? Then in 2022, right before my title defense, that inexplicable extra 0.5 pounds felt like a cruel joke. It got me stripped of my belt. I checked my weight again and again, my eyes full of helplessness and disbelief. But the cold rules refused to give me even a second to plead my case. The whole world was waiting to see me fall. But I chose the hardest way to answer back. Amid a storm of boos, it took me only 3 minutes to submit the loudmouth Gaethje. I pointed at my empty waist and told the world, the belt can be taken away, but the name that fought its way out of the slum's mud can never be taken from me. But every climb has its cliff. In Abu Dhabi, I was finished by Makhachev. Once again, I lost my chance to touch the throne. Once again, the media turned all its cameras on me, questioning my dominance and mocking my defeat. I didn't argue, because they had never seen the despair of being told at 7 that I'd be disabled. They had never seen my mentor lying in a pool of blood, and they had never seen a man at 4 a.m. facing the dead silence of an empty home. So I waited for my chance to settle every old debt with my old rival, Blessed Holloway. 11 years ago, it was in my fight with him that a freak injury, followed by a chorus of boos, left me carried out on a stretcher like a criminal. It was the most shameful scar on my soul. 11 years. Today, that debt had to be repaid with interest. This time, I was terrifyingly calm. For all 5 rounds, I used the simplest, most grinding ground control. Bit by bit I eroded his will, and with it, I strangled the weak version of myself from 11 years ago. When the referee raised my arm high, I finally made peace with the boy who had once brought me shame. That night, as I held up the belt, the ultimate symbol of a warrior's peak, and lifted my son with my other hand. I finally understood. What the doctor heard back then wasn't a heart murmur. It was the roar of a king's engine inside me. True strength isn't found in street thugs and loud mouths. It's when fate tries to break you again and again. You clutch that stone from your father tightly in your hand and tell it, "You're not enough."